Morning, y'all. This is David, the Georgia photographer, and today I'm going to go basically back to my old stomping grounds a little bit. I got a friend that I'd never really grew up with, but I knew him, and his dad was my scoutmaster. All right. I think since his dad has passed away, and now he lives on the same farm, and I think he's built his own house, but aside from that, he's still into role-playing games. I did role-playing games from high school through my early 20s. Into my late 20s, I played role-playing games, almost exclusively Dungeons and Dragons. But I was pretty heavy into it at the time. But I haven't done a role-playing game in easily 20 years. Well, we hired a new sales guy in the machine shop from Dalton, Georgia. Come to find out, he games with my childhood friend every week. They're like super close. And this weekend, they're holding a special event. So they actually invited me to come. So what I want to do is go get some video, some still photos, and share with you guys what gaming looks like in 2020. Come on, let's go. All right, y'all, I'm back. I don't have any video from the gaming convention per se. I just took still photos, mainly because I didn't want to like ruin the vibe of the event, because they were having a good time with their RPGs. So I took, this is the 50mm f2 and the 23mm f2, and what that allows me to do is get wider and more telephoto. I kind of did like almost detail shots with the 50 and did group shots with the 23, and then by having it on two different cameras, it was able, I was able to switch between them rapidly. And I don't have a zoom that fits these, and that's the cameras I took, so I just run the two different focal lengths, got good photos. Also, on my way over to Lafayette, I drove through the Chickamauga National Battlefield Park. It's a national park. That's, to preserve the history of the Battle of Chickamauga. This battlefield has become a game preserve. It's a safe haven for the local deer population. And I went through the battlefield park because I wanted to. It's kind of nostalgic for me. I grew up in Lafayette, and Highway 27 used to pass straight through the park to get to Fort Oglethorpe. And then, somewhere in the late 90s, late 80s, early 1990s, they built a huge bypass around the battlefield through the community of Dewberry to link Highway 2 in Fort Oglethorpe to the other side of the battlefield, because the battlefield was a 2-lane road, and it was, it's maintained by the Park Service, so it's not like, it doesn't have shoulders for pulling off, and semis were having to pass through there. So they decided to build a 4-lane around it. When they did that, this became just a secondary road. They even rerouted the way the highway flows so that you have to turn through a red light to go through the battlefield now. And now it's kind of what it was meant to be, which is just observance of the park. You get there's like bicyclists and joggers and hikers. People like to drive through and look at the deer, because the deer have very little man fear. I say little man fear because I tried to get close to some of them to photograph them, and they gave me this view. That's because I was expecting them to be a little more docile than they were. I got a few photos of the deer, but I was passing through the park, and I got to noticing more of them and more of them and more of them, and I thought the next clearing that shows up, I'm going to pull over and see if there's any. And there was a few. I had drove by a herd walking single file through a huge field with cars driving alongside, looking at them. I thought, be easy, grab a few photos. By the time I got the camera out of the truck, they had done went around me and was crossing the road. I got a couple of photos, but if I'd have stopped where that herd was moving across, it'd have been much cooler. And it was early morning. There was a lot of cool fog, and I was trying to get some of that vibe, you know. But I didn't. I got a few photos, but nothing spectacular. But it was cool, you know. It was neat to get that. And then I went on over to the gaming convention, hung out there for a few hours, and just visited. And basically, I just observed and watched them have games, and because I don't know how to play any of them, they're all new to me, and they had a good time, and they didn't mind me taking photos, so I didn't push for the video. I just didn't bother because, like I said, I didn't want to like ruin their vibe. They've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I didn't want to be that guy that comes in and runs around behind them distracting everybody with a video camera, so I just left it be. But it was interesting, and it was interesting to me as a photographer to try and document it without being intrusive, if that makes sense. I wanted it to be about them and their game, not about me photographing them and their game. Does that make sense? So I kind of just stuck to the rear of the room, and like I moved around the perimeters a couple of times. They had two different games going at a time in two different rooms. So I'd go in one room, photograph a while, then I'd just kind of observe the game, then I'd take a detail shot here and there, and then I'd just watch the game, maybe even talk about it a little bit with them, because they were really open. They wanted me to play, and I kind of liked one or two of them. They were kind of interesting looking games, but I just didn't want to be the guy holding the whole thing behind, you know. So I just took pictures. I think I've said that about 3 times now. But anyway, point being is, it was interesting to be allowed to be on site without being in the middle of the thick of it, you know. It was really interesting to do that. But yeah, I didn't actually get video footage of the event. I just kind of felt bad about doing that part, so I just didn't bother. But it was interesting to see it, like I said, and the photos are cool. So with that, this is David, the Georgia photographer. Appreciate you watching, and you know, this is what I do. I just go out and take photos and share them with you guys. Occasionally I'll print some of them. But till next time, get your camera out, no matter what it is, and go take some pictures with it. All right, we'll see you later. Bye bye.